Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yo. What is the deal? Welcome to the No Pick Show where there's no handhold. We deal with facts, not emotion. Please be sure to subscribe, hit that like button, hit the bell notification. Also, so we've been talking about this for a minute. And I come bearing good news. It looks like the Pelicans' interest in Jaylen Brown is real. It looks like the Pelicans do genuinely have interest in Jaylen Brown. Now, some of that could be just calling to see what the price is, calling to see if they're even open to trading Jaylen Brown. But like we mentioned before, look, man, I've been, without saying too much, I've been talking about the Pelicans going after Jaylen Brown for a reason. I ain't, just saying this because I'm a fan of Jaylen Brown's game. I've been saying it for a reason. So I'll leave it there for now. But yeah, so it looks like the interest is real. Now Jake Fisher is making it public. Remember, Jake Fisher is also the guy that broke the news about the Pelicans initially having interest in Jamal Mosley. So we're going to listen to what he said. He also mentions a small tidbit about Trey Murphy. And then shout out to my dog Michael Morgan in the building with that super chat. But hey, man, this is interesting. And in my opinion, this is the direction the Pelicans need to be going in. The Pelicans need to be acting as buyers and not sellers. So without further ado, let's hear some of the things Jake had to talk about.
Although teams have been calling New Orleans about Trey Murphy for a long time now. One of the teams that's been the most
what up, Louisiana Gal?
Over the last couple of years,
say Jake Fisher close to Troy.
Sources with knowledge of the situation has been the San Antonio Spurs. So right now we can kind of check them off, being that clearly San Antonio has a build that has been humming in the right direction all the way to this NBA Finals that tips off tomorrow night in San Antonio.
Oh yeah, Mike.
Matthew 365 is asking. Or he's saying, I hear the comments about the Rockets, but they need to be in on Jaylen Brown if he's available. Clear ceiling with Şengün. So let's take that to our third topic of the day, with Boston potentially exploring Jaylen Brown trades. Now,
look, when y'all hear these names of the teams that's potentially interested, like when you look at Houston, Portland, New Orleans, and Atlanta having some interest, honestly, if they not trading Amen Thompson, I think New Orleans could put forth the strongest offer. I really think New Orleans got the strongest offer of these teams listed. Like, I really think New Orleans does.
Jaylen Brown has come out and said on his stream, wherever he said that he wants to be in Boston for the next 10 years. Brad Stevens has said that they've been in touch with Jaylen and everything's hunky-dory there. But I'll tell you, he is someone that clearly proved as an MVP candidate last year he could be an alpha in his own right. He already won Finals MVP 2 years ago while sharing the floor with Jason Tatum and leading Boston to the 2 seed, although they fell in the first round to Philadelphia. There's plenty of belief around the league that Jaylen Brown could be an alpha dog on his own squad. And so we do have Houston, Portland, Atlanta as teams that we're monitoring for potential Jaylen Brown suitors. Of course, the Rockets have Ime Udoka, their head coach.
I do find it interesting that the Pelicans aren't like, whoa, what up with you? Shout out to my dog L. I do find it interesting that the Pelicans aren't listed in the initial leak by Mark Stein, but they are listed on the Bleacher Report graphic. Shout out to all the good people at Bleacher Report. Shout out to my dog Ross. Well, Justin. Shout out to my dog Justin over there at Bleacher Report.
Coach Jaylen in Boston and took them to the finals in 2022. The Trailblazers have had interest in Jaylen Brown dating back to Damian Lillard's first tenure with Portland. And by all accounts, whether it's Giannis, whether it's trying to go for Anthony Davis in Washington, the Blazers under new owner Tom Dundon do want to make aggressive trade moves this summer and try to get better by using Jeremy Grant's $35-ish million salary. They've got Milwaukee's trade assets. If there is a Giannis trade, regardless of if he goes to Portland or not, the Blazers have an opportunity to try to send some picks to Milwaukee and figure out a way to get better in a multi-team capacity. Atlanta's Jaylen Brown's hometown.
Make sure y'all hit that like button.
That's a spot that he would potentially have interest in going to. The Hawks do not want to be in the Giannis trade sweepstakes by various accounts. They clearly look at Jalen Johnson as their kind of front.
I don't really see what the Hawks would have to offer. Same with Portland. Like, what the Celtics really want Jeremy Grant. Maybe they'd have some interest in Scoot Henderson, but would they really want anything from them truly?
Ball handler, downhill force, but would Jaylen Brown be someone that they'd be willing to send out a younger piece and a draft pick or two to go acquire? That'd be an interesting one to me, and I do believe that the Hawks have been on his radar in the past. The Pelicans have been mentioned by various league executives as a team with Jaylen Brown interest as well. So
now, did y'all hear that? Did you hear it? Because Jaden was like, he did not say the Pelicans. He literally just said the Pelicans, Jaden.
Mentioned by various league executives as a team with Jaylen Brown interest as well. So
say I'm going to run it back for you.
Would Jaylen Brown be someone that they'd be willing to send out a younger piece and a draft pick or two to go acquire? That'd be an interesting one to me, and I do believe that the Hawks have been on his radar in the past. The Pelicans have been mentioned by various league executives as a team with Jaylen Brown interest as well. So, again, we don't know.
Now, it is interesting that the Pelicans seem to be mentioned as a bit of a afterthought, but this is the same gentleman that broke the Jamal Mosley story as well. And again, there's no obvious relationship between Dumas and Mosley, at least none that we know of, aside from them just being in the basketball fraternity. But I'll also say this. I ain't gonna lie to you, Alvin. I'm willing to offer way more than this. I ain't gonna hold you. I would probably start at like, yo, look, if y'all want it, cool. If not, then whatever, we'll figure out something else. But for me, it would be like DeJounte, Herb, what like however I can make the salary. I'm gonna say this. I would try not to include Trey. Like I would keep Zion and try not to include Trey. And everything else but Fears would be on the table. Everybody else but Fears would be on the table. And at least I'm gonna say 3 firsts. 3 firsts and maybe a swap or 2. Something along those lines. Like, because you're talking about finals MVP guy, just was in the running for MVP this season, pretty much for Dolo. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much by himself most of the season. I think he was just incredible this season. Michael Morgan said he's not expecting a big trade from Joe or Troy for some reason. Hey, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe it's all due diligence. Louisiana gal said they want Trey. And I was talking to a couple people yesterday. And I was saying, look, even before we did the show, I was like, this is the type of scenario that you trade Trey. In my opinion, this would be the type of scenario to where you move Trey, because it can't be a lateral move. It can't just be for stuff necessarily, because if you were to trade for, let's just say stuff, let's just say picks and salary or what have you, then you would have to reroute that stuff to go find you a real player, like another like guy, like, you know what I'm saying? An actual player. You got to go get a real player. To me, Jaylen Brown is arguably a top 12 player in the NBA. And I'm being generous saying 12 because you could probably say top 8 this past season. Like, he was that good this season. To me, you can do both. Like, if you had a situation where you wanted to get a couple picks and, you know, maybe a young player or two, and you potentially reroute that for Jaylen Brown, cool. But in the short term, you gotta no. Like, if you're moving Trey, you have to go get talent, because ultimately the team wants to win, and this is the type of guy you do that for. It's funny. It's funny how life is. I just happen to have his contract and shit queued up because we was talking about it the other day. And 30 years old, 3 years left on the contract. People are going to see that number, that 60. I don't know why people keep rounding up, but people are going to see that $61 to $64 million round up. But thus far, he's earned the contract. Remember, he got that contract coming off of a finals MVP. It's funny. One of the people I was talking to about this yesterday, excuse me too, y'all. I got a cold right now, but I'm battling through it because, you know, I fuss with y'all. One of the people I was talking to yesterday about it. Yeah, look. What I'm saying is, I think Trey would be available if this came about. You could try not to give him trade. Like, I wouldn't like necessarily be in love with trading him away, but yeah, I think you'd have to go ahead and cough up Trey in this scenario. And Trey, to be fair, isn't much younger than Jaylen. So I mean, I do it. I'm interested in to know what you guys would do, and if you guys think that there's other teams from the aforementioned teams that would be interested that would potentially have a better offer. Because to me, I don't really think of many that would have better offers. If they would never approve Jaylen's the truth and would start talking about Gale scandals in depth. I don't know. I don't think Jaylen live in Boston. If Jaylen ain't talking about nothing in Boston, then I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. But then I guess I would like to add the caveat that the Pelicans would be open to trading for Kawhi, AD, Franz. Not saying any of this will happen, but they'll call if any are made available. AD in particular is somebody that I could realistically see them having dealings with, because and remember, one of the only deals they did this past offseason was with the Washington Wizards. So the reports that the relationship was there, especially as it pertains to Troy Weaver and his tenure or short tenure in Washington. So, you know everybody in that building. Anthony Davis talked a lot of shit, but I think if Anthony Davis felt like he was going to a good team and escaping the Wizards, then I think he'd be a little more open to coming to New Orleans. I just think he's a little bitter, but I think the relationship is reparable personally. For us, other people like Kawhi and Franz, I don't think Franz is going nowhere. Because I think they're going to give Sweeney an opportunity to do something. Like with the Celtics, they've clearly peaked, right? And now it's like, all right, we kind of need to refurbish a few things. Whereas with Orlando, I don't really, aside from the injuries, I don't really know what moving Franz does for you. Like, I mean, shit, I would call about him. Why not? But I don't know why they would do it. With Boston, it makes some sense because you got your championship, so you pretty much proved that it can work. You got eliminated in the first round, and you don't have many avenues to improve that team. So I would see why they would go this route, where it's like we get younger, we possibly get a little cheaper, and we fill up a couple other positions of need, right? If the Pelicans were to trade for Jaylen Brown would immediately become their best player, in my opinion. Like, I see, say, in your opinion, he would trade Zion for Brown. I can't see that. Not saying it's impossible, but I think it would depend. I think that's more of a lateral move. Not because I still think Brown is head and shoulders better than Zion today, but it's like, what does the rest of that roster really do for you? Like, you know what I'm saying? And I do think Zion and Joe got a pretty good relationship. That don't mean he won't trade his ass, but I think they got a good enough relationship the way it would be like, yo, if I could see Zion and Brown and Fears together, that's a ton of physicality. You got shooting now, you got defense now. There's a lot of like positives with that pairing. I think Trey would fit in great with that as well. But I think, like, when I see some people propose trades, I always say to myself, like, why would the Pelicans or the other team do this? Because at the end of the day, the opposing team wants good players. You feel me? The opposing team wants good players, and the Pelicans aren't going to want to give up their players for cheap. If you listen to what Jake said earlier, Jake Fisher, not the bitch ass Jake Fisher. You listen to what Jake Fisher said earlier. He was saying the Pelicans are still being notoriously stubborn as it pertains to trading guys and giving guys away. They're answering the phone. I'm sure they're making calls themselves, but they're not really looking to give guys away, in my opinion. Justine say AD would be a blockbuster Troy Washington love fest. B. Penton say you got to lock in the Jonathan for Jaylen move. Hey, I say let's do it. I say I like Trey, but he would be the first playing out for Brown. People forgetting that Boston was trying not to win this year, but JB proved he's the number one option. JB was phenomenal this year. Jeremy say was this title real? Yeah, according to Jake Fisher, the Pelicans do have some interest. Again, kind of been saying it for a reason. Not that any of this will come to fruition, but I have to keep reemphasizing that Jake Fisher is the guy who initially broke the Jamal Mosley news. As far as the Pelicans have an interest in Jamal Mosley, not necessarily the hiring, but he was saying this in November. Like, it was him saying it, then I was saying it, and then kind of when all the other names kind of got thrown out there with Ham and Rondo, etc. That's kind of when everyone else started saying it. Victoria said, nope, no AD, that's all, folks. Hey, I understand some people still feel some type of way about that. I totally understand. Justin Davis said, I think if they can make a move for a Brown level player, it makes other players more viable, in my opinion. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's when you talk about a rising tide lifting all boats, that would be the rising tide level player. Like, you know what I'm saying? Chunk said AD was Zion will be must-see TV. Yeah, look, if they were staying on the court, Chunk, if Anthony Davis played 68 games and Zion played 68 games, that would be a hell of a team. Like, that would be some great back-end defense, getting out transition, slam dunks, etc. Whoa, what up with you, Cole? Shout out to Cole in the building, man. Check out his podcast as well. So I want to go over some of Jaylen Brown's numbers from this past season. This motherfucker was balling, y'all. Like, he was balling. Finished 6th in the MVP race, All-Star, NBA second team. And really, to me, I know Luka put up better numbers, but I think Jaylen should have been first team and Luka probably should have been second team. Like, I gotta I don't know. I think Luka just ain't play enough. But anyway, Jaylen Brown played 71 games this year. Been pretty consistently healthy. Played through last season with I think he had a meniscus injury, if I'm not mistaken, last season. But shot 34% from behind the arc on 5 attempts. That's not great, not like wildly efficient, but average a season career high. 16 field goal attempts on 52%. Shot 80%. Damn, 7.5, but damn near 8 free throws a game at 79%. Average 6.9 rebounds. We could just say 7. So average 28 points. So basically, 28, 5, and 6, and throwing 1 steal. Dude, a monster. Another also, yeah, at this point, he's a 5-time All-Star. Undoubtedly would be your best player, championship player, MVP caliber guy. Would be making 30 years old. I'm not sure when his birthday is. Let me see. His birthday is in October, so he'll be turning 30 at the start of the season, if I'm not mistaken. Still pretty young. Doesn't have an history of injuries. Also, like, dude, just phenomenal. Like, yeah, only 16 shots a game is pretty interesting. No, I'm sorry. No, only 16 2-point attempts a game because he averaged 5 threes. So his total was 21 field goal attempts a game, like total 21 field goal attempts a game. And, that's a prolific 3-point shooting team. Like, the dude just a monster. Like, the dude just a monster of a player. Brown say, B. Pentensar say Brown to the Pelicans would be similar to Butler to the Heat for anyone saying he's too old. I mean, I tend to look at it like this. When you talk about, like, certain players and age and things of that nature, right? Jaylen Brown is a 5-time All-Star, finished 6th in the MVP race, right? 2-time All-NBA guy. With the way things are trending for his career right now, he's going to be better than every player on the Pelicans roster for at least the next 2 to 4 years. And based on the current Pelicans roster, there's probably not a player on that roster that will ever achieve this number of accolades as it currently stands, unless Jeremiah Fizz just has a phenomenal career or Zion just has the greatest comeback story of all time. This dude is the real fucking deal. Jaylen Brown is the real fucking deal. And for the people who missed it, I'll go back and play what the homie Jake Fisher said again. Let me see if I can play
this.
If
Boston's even going to fully entertain this by then, that he would potentially have interest in going to. The Hawks do not want to be in the Giannis trade sweepstakes by various accounts. They clearly look at Jalen Johnson as their kind of front court ball handler, downhill force, but would Jaylen Brown be someone that they'd be willing to send out a younger piece and a draft pick or two to go acquire? That'd be an interesting one to me, and I do believe.
Yeah, do me a favor, if you're in the building while we're listening to Jake talk, can you hit the like button for me, man? Shout out to everybody in the building.
That the Hawks have been on his radar in the past. The Pelicans have been mentioned by various league executives as a team with Jaylen Brown interest as well. So, again, we don't know if Boston's even going to fully entertain this by the end of the day. But that doesn't mean these teams are going to call and are going to try.
Yeah. Truthfully, if I'm Boston, man, if I'm Boston, I don't think I do it. But it also depends on if I can get a steal and what Jaylen Brown wants. Because if Jaylen Brown becomes because I'm sure he don't have the most awesome relationship with the organization as far as these are things he said. He did an interview with 19 Keys. He was like, some of the principles with the organization, go against some of the things he stands for, he believes. And, he's tired of being in trade rumors every offseason. And this is another offseason with him being in trade rumors. And he checks pretty much every box that I think Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver would want. I absolutely think that it's possible. I just don't know if Boston does it without you just. To me, the deal, I think, gets it done, honestly. Y'all let me know if y'all think this is an overpay. But the deal, I think, gets it done. Like a logical deal would probably be Trey, DeJounte, and maybe Derek. And 3 firsts and a swap. Trey, DeJounte, maybe Derek, and maybe 3 firsts and a swap. And then you kind of figure out the rest of the thing. You figure out what you're going to do with Herb and Poole. Then, you just figure out other, how you going to round out the roster after that. Because now you have 2 guys that are going to be upper echelon NBA players when healthy for at least the next 3 years. You got Jeremiah Fair, who you absolutely believe in. Now you still got to address your center situation. You didn't really add a ton of money to your cap. I think you see, it would depend. It would depend. Because ultimately, you would have to decide, who do you think Derek Queen becomes? Do you think Trey takes the next 2 steps to become a Jaylen Brown level player? Because Trey is already, I think he's about to be 26, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 27. So is there another 2 steps there to becoming that type of player? DeJounte kind of is who he is at this point. So it's certainly something. But other teams are going to want good players because Boston has no reason to trade Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's under contract for the next 3 years. He just had a phenomenal year, probably best year of his career. You're still a championship contending team. The only way you do this is if you get an incredible return and or Jaylen just man, I don't want to be here no more. So now both are really possible. Both are very possible. Let me see here. Let me see. Hold up. Man, we want Giannis. I don't think nobody. Honestly, I don't think nobody really want Giannis in New Orleans. I think people would take him, but I don't think. I don't think so. Giannis on a 2-year deal. Giannis would never sign a contract extension in New Orleans. Never. He never would. Jay Stobler say, would you try to get Bobby Portis? No. Nah, I think it's kind of over for Bobby. I kind of wanted Bobby Portis maybe 2 years ago. I think the toughness and shit is cool. He can hit an occasional three, but his defense is falling off bad. I don't think you can have Bobby Portis and he don't really rebound. So I don't think you can have Bobby Portis and DeAndre Jordan if they plan on bringing DeAndre Jordan back. Also, if you bring in Bobby Portis, you still, he's going. I'm guessing he's your backup center because now you got a big rotation of Bobby Portis, Derek Queen, Eve Messi, and Carlo. That's not a good center rotation, in my opinion, because you still got some of the same needs. You still need the rim defense. You still need rebounding. I guess he give you some shooting and some toughness, but I don't know how much toughness is worth when you can't defend anymore. Shit, hold up. I might have to remove. My bad. There we go. Cole say package. I will want the Celtics to receive Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and Hawkins for Brown, Hauser, and Pritchard. That's asking a lot. That is asking a lot, Cole. I ain't gonna lie, because Pritchard still like awesome. Remember this. Herb Jones and Hawkins are both probably considered more so distressed assets at this stage because Herb about to be making a lot of money once that contract jumps to 20. Hawkins, $7 million expiring. I mean, I guess it's not that bad, but he's not worth anything. So Trey is probably like a positive asset. All three of those assets that you just named for the Celtics are all positive assets. Jaylen Brown's extremely positive. Pritchard, former $6 million a year, extremely positive. Hauser, extremely positive. I think if you was taking it back, even Derek White, I think is still a positive asset. If you was taking back a questionable contract, like let's say Vucevic had another year on his deal, and you was like, I'll take back Vucevic, I think maybe you could get away with something like this. But the Celtics, one of the issues is that aside from maybe Hauser, they don't really have a ton of bad assets. They just got a bunch of good assets that make a lot of money. So that's really like their issue, in my opinion. Cat Manny say Trey Murphy, DeJounte, 29 first and 31 pick swap. I wouldn't do that if I was Boston. Because even DeJounte is a negative asset. Like I don't, because let's say Derek White just had a mulligan and Derek White returns to form next year. It's like, I got Derek White. I got DeJounte. DeJounte don't really play how we play as far as launching a bunch of threes. Your 29 first, 31 first. That could be cool. But if you got Jaylen, I don't know how good that. I mean, it depends. Jaylen could fall off, I guess. But I don't know what I would do with one first and one pick swap. Because it's really one pick. It's really one first. In that deal, it's really one first. So, and by 31, Boston could be bad. So if Boston is bad in 5 years and the Pelicans are good, what value does that pick swap really hold? You know what I'm saying? Paperboy say Brad already said he needs more paint pressure. He going after Zion. I can see that. I did see him mention that in one of his pressers. And say you get in. Oh, would I get anything else back? I mean, there is some. I forgot exactly what the deal was, but there is some kind of way. You send out a bunch of stuff that doesn't include her, and you can get Jaylen Brown and Hauser back. But that's a very pick-rich thing. Now, that's the thing, too. If Boston says, all right, look, we want to reset a little bit, and we want to get younger. We just want picks and salary and maybe one blue-chip player. Then cool. But I don't think they would do that. Like, I think they're going to try to continue to build on the Tatum timeline. I think they will try to get younger, but I don't think they'll, like, try to do it while also being bad. I think they're still gonna want like some real player talent back, so at least they can like keep the training wheels on while they're getting younger. Cap said we got to keep Derek. Some people say that. This time said that's legit the worst trade in NBA history. Full stop. I mean, you just saw Luka traded for what he was traded for. I mean, I don't know how you feel about the Derek trade. B Penn said that's an overpay. You know, the thing I say about a guy like MVP caliber players, it could always like to frame it like this. Let's say the Pelicans had $60 million in cap space, right? The Pelicans just got $60 million in cap space. Jaylen Brown, Cade Cunningham, Jason Tatum, all these guys are free agents. I say all of them free agents. None of them will come to the Pelicans. None of them. That's the situation you're in. So if you want to get one of those guys or a high-level player, you're going to have to draft him and nurture him and turn him into that, or you're going to have to trade for him. And if you trade for him, you're going to have to pay. Now, there's something like this could set a new market, and the market would be crazy. I think if Giannis is traded, Giannis will set the market, because I can see a deal where maybe Jaylen Brown gets traded for like one more first than Giannis, because he's younger, don't got the injury history. And I think Giannis is like, I think who's the better player today is debatable. I think we all would say Giannis, right? But I do think it's more debatable than people think. Targeter for life say, I know Tatum and DeJounte have a relationship. Yeah, it would be perfect to me. I mean, both coming off an Achilles, they could, share tips and tricks and shit. Just like David said, sometimes you got to overpay for great players. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? You have to. Say, I'd rather pair Derek and Brown together before I trade away Derek. That's reasonable. Just nice that you overpay for players on team-friendly contracts. Mikal Bridges and Desmond Bane aren't on team-friendly contracts, and those guys were arguably overpaid for. To me, it's about the goal and what you're trying to accomplish. Like, Herb isn't on a team-friendly contract. If somebody gave you 2 unprotected firsts for Herb, that would be an overpay, in my opinion. But if you need defense, like if you're the Lakers and you need defense, you got Luka, you got Austin Reeves, you got LeBron maybe, and you just need perimeter defense, you pay for what you need, not necessarily like the contract. Like if the contract is a negative asset, cool. But if you desperately need that player, it's not going to be a negative to you, if that makes sense. Beanie, what's the deal, homie? Say, give me Jai and Brown this offseason. I think if you really believed in Eve, that would be cool. I mean, fuck, I would love it. If you really believe in Eve and you got to do some masterful scouting, unrestricted free agents. I'm sorry, undrafted free agents, two-way guys. Maybe you bring in Precious Achiuwa, see if he could still, help you out. But I think if you had Ja, Zion, and Brown, hypothetically, I think they wouldn't mind going and like dipping their toe into the tax, because they're at no threat of being in a repeater tax because they haven't been in the tax yet. So I do think they would consider something like that. B. Pensy, I think his contract value reduces Boston's return. I think you may need to add 1 pick to trade DeJounte. But that's the thing, B. Penton. I don't think nobody thinks Jaylen Brown is on a bad contract. I think that's a Twitter talking point. I think if Jaylen Brown would have went out there and shit the bed this season, more people would feel that way. But when you in the MVP conversation, All-Star and All-NBA, this is not like a debatable situation. Like, to me, it's not like Jalen Duren debatable or like Evan Mobley. Like that, to me, Evan Mobley's on a bad contract today just based on his recent production. But based on recent production, Jaylen Brown is not on a bad contract. And I don't think anyone views it that way, honestly. Paperboy say Zion for paint pressure, JP for more three-point shooting, Brad would do swap, I think. I just don't know what that does for the Pelicans, though, to be honest. Ja, JB, and Zion would be must-see TV. It would be something, because, boy, that went wrong. That would be swinging and totally missing if that shit went wrong. But it would be fire. It would be fire. To me, that's the type of gamble you take. Like, again, if Jaylen was a distressed asset, it would be even better because he'd be cheaper to get. But Jaylen Brown is, like, people talk about Jaylen like Jaylen's fucking Zach LaVine. Jaylen Brown is an MVP caliber player. Finals MVP, just came off an MVP caliber season. Like, second team All NBA, like, I don't know. Cat Manny say, if we can get Jaylen, what about Bridges from New York? Give them Messi, Herb in the first. You talking about Mikal Bridges? I'm cool on Mikal. Mikal getting a lot of money, and he not really worth it, to be honest. Not that he not worth it, because he earned it when he got it. But Michael is just a high-level role player. Like Michael may get an all-star bid once in his career at some point. But Michael's closer to being just another guy than a Jaylen, in my opinion. Savage say, watching the stream from the beginning. Oh, for sure. Appreciate you, Savage. Cole said, I meant DeJounte Murray. Okay, I got you. Yo, if y'all in here, man, please do me a favor. Hit the like button. Especially if you joined it late. We were going over some of the things that Jake Fisher was reporting upon with the Pelicans having some interest in Jaylen Brown and other teams, one being the San Antonio Spurs, previously having interest in Trey Murphy. So that's not breaking news there, but the breaking news is the Pelicans having some interest in Jaylen Brown, something that kind of heard about, but behind the scenes, but you're not really sure. And this being Jake Fisher being a guy that's worked with Bleacher Report for years, broke. Oh, and also let me say this for people who are not familiar with Jake Fisher. Jake Fisher was the first person to break the Brandon Ingram to Toronto trade. He was the first person to break the Jamal Murray to New Orleans interest, and now he's breaking this. So he got his tentacles paused in New Orleans, and I'm sure he has some relationship somewhere. Nando, what's the deal, my bro? He said, dudes, you got to do to make this happen. Facts. Speak on it, God. Speak on it. Hey, Spittle said, what do you think about Eve Messi for Jalen Smith from Chicago trade? If I could do Jalen Smith and what's that, pick 15 for Herb and Eve, I would do that. For Herb and Eve. It would depend on who's on the board, because I think Eve's going to play better under Mosley. But I like Jalen Smith a lot. And Jalen Smith, University of Maryland guy, if that could get you back into the first round, that would be cool. I do know that Chicago had interest in Eve, but that was under the last regime. But Bryson drafted Eve, so maybe that interest maintains. I think I had something in here, if I'm not mistaken. Give me 1 second. I think I had a trade proposal in here. That was something like that. Yeah. My trade was Herb Jones and Jalen Smith for that, what's that, pick 15 just from Chicago. I would love to do something like that. We got 103 people in the building, man. Hit that like button, man. Appreciate all y'all rocking with me. I know this show is random, but it's breaking news. I want to, give it to y'all. Make sure you remember where you heard it first, because I'm sure people are going to be talking about it now. Bird Talks, what's the deal? So keep that news coming. Appreciate you, fam. Yeah, you got to get the alpha. You got to get, again, dog, he checks a lot of boxes. Got to get the alpha, dog. Hey, did everyone hear it? Let me know in the comments. Did everyone hear what Jake Fisher said, or do y'all want me to play it again? Let me know in the comments. Did everyone hear it, or do y'all want me to play what Jake Fisher said again? That I can play it again if you didn't hear it. Shout out to my dog, Jess, in the building. What up with you, Jess? Appreciate you always supporting. Dexter said the only problem is Jaylen Brown's contract astronaut. It isn't. It really isn't, bro. Like, again, the Pelicans have, aside from, let's take Poole out of the equation because Poole's expired. The Pelicans have DeJounte making like 30 this year, right? That money will not move the needle. That, let's say 30 is half of what Jaylen Brown's making, right? You add in, let's say, Trey to that, hypothetically. Those two players at the same price as Jaylen Brown will not move the needle as much as Jaylen Brown would. Like, and that's what it's all about. Like, don't think about the number necessarily. Think about the impact, because you can have 5 players, 5 guys that make 10 million each. That's 50 million. And you can have one Kawhi that makes $50 million by himself. Those 5 players together probably won't move the needle as much as Kawhi would. That's why these guys are great. You know what I'm saying? V-Man say, I'm not trading no core players. I don't think the Pelicans have no core players aside from Fears, to be honest. I think if you ask them, like, plainly, like, who your core players, they probably say Fears and just go from there, honestly. Targeting for life, they trade DeJounte would make about $59 million at the picks. I think the Celtics would discuss it. Yeah, I think so as well. If DeJounte would have played more last year, I think you would have much more action. But I do think this deal probably dies on the table. Like, if there's a way to do, because they might not want DeJounte, but if there's a way for them to do like Poole, Trey, and Herb, I think if like some kind of way you could put that money together, maybe for Jaylen Brown and Hauser, I think they would do that because Poole falls off the books. Poole busts their ass in the NBA Finals. They get Trey and Herb. Herb could be your eventual Derek White replacement, quote unquote. I think they would do that if it was Poole, Trey, and Herb, and maybe you could give them like less picks with that because they get an expiring salary. You're getting Herb and you get Trey. I don't know if they would want DeJounte, to be honest, because DeJounte got that additional year on his deal. Say Derek White is 32 years old, making 32 mil. I'm not sure he's gonna be declining soon. Not sure he gonna. Oh yeah. Derek right now is Derek White. He had a really, really bad year for him. For him last year, he had a bad year. It was rough. What you think? Say trade in DeJounte for Jaylen Brown, Derek White. I would do it. I mean, if it was an option, I would do that. You get two dogs in the building. Like I said, Derek White coming off a bad year, but I would do that shit. DeJounte coming off a bad year. Say not sure he won't be declining soon. Yeah, the decline already set it a little bit this year, but he could have just had a bad year. He could have just had a bad year also. Beanie say, what established star around the league do you think would trust Joe enough to want to play in New Orleans, making the Pelicans a priority? Kawhi. I think people, honestly, I think stars, when they're looking for extensions, go where the money is. Like if you're a free agent and you got more options, I think you kind of can pick and choose. I think when you're looking for an extension and you got like the clout, you go where the money is. Kawhi, to me, Kawhi so right. Kawhi type motherfucker that will retire. Like I don't think there's a situation where players would trust or not trust Joe. I think Joe got a great relationship with the players. I don't think it would be. Let me say this for clarity, because I think Beanie asked a good question. It don't got nothing to do with Joe Dumars. It don't got nothing to do with Joe Dumars. The cold reality is people just don't want to play in New Orleans, and people don't want to play for the Pelicans specifically. Like that's kind of like what Beanie mentioned. Like, would you trust Joe enough to want to play in New Orleans or make the Pels a reality? I'm just saying for clarity, because Beanie making a good point. I'm saying for clarity, the decision that the reason why people don't come to the Pelicans typically is because they don't want to play for a bad team and they don't want to live in New Orleans. That's really like what it's been like. I know some people like mentioned Joe, and they're like, Joe just got here. Like you wouldn't believe some of the motherfuckers that have turned down the Pelicans. It becomes more likely in a Giannis trade. You saying if Giannis is traded, then they you think they pivot and try to go a little younger? Say Boston still in their championship window. It doesn't take much in the East. Shit, I don't think it takes much in the West. Honestly, I think the East is getting better and better. Because you got the Raptors, I anticipate going to be a little better. Cleveland will probably be a little about the same. Indiana should be better. Detroit should be better. Like Boston, if they keep Jaylen, should be better. Like the Wizards should be better if they keep AD and Trey. I don't know why. I think people really underselling the East, to be honest, because like the West, the bottom of the West this year wasn't shit. Like with the Warriors and the Suns and the Pelicans and Dallas, no teams wasn't shit really. Dallas should be better when Kyrie come back, but Jimmy Butler ain't coming back. Like Jimmy Butler got ACL, so like I think people sleeping on the East. The East is the East to me, and you got the Knicks. The East to me is about to be the motherfucking team running shit for years to come. I mean, the conference that's running shit for years to come, in my opinion, especially if like Giannis come back to the East and Ja move to the East or something like that, and or Minnesota, that team moves to the East. Man, the East is about to be running shit, in my opinion. They're already running shit to me. We'll see what happens in the finals, but I'm saying for years to come, the East is cold. Austin Reeves sign a trade, and I'm cool, man. I'm cool. Cole. I'm leaving Austin where he's at. Well, what's that with your most hated? I think Austin a great player, but I'm cool. Great, I don't say great. He's a very good player. In the Pels we trust. Yes, indeed. Quincy got to make it happen, though, man. Gotta make it happen. Jay Stein said, Chaz, Herb has tons of interest in his old contract too. First, why did Joe add 100 million to his contract considering how much interest Herb had prior? Because Herb would be expiring this offseason. So they was in a tough pickle. Because if you leave Herb on an expiring contract, like Herb was injured the prior season to the contract extension. If you leave Herb on an expiring, the value going to decrease anyway, because like you gotta trade him at that point because he probably wouldn't have re-signed. I think the only reason Herb re-signed or extended early is because of where the market was for his restricted free agents and free agency period, and he was coming off such a bad year. So, like, if Herb was a free agent, he wouldn't get $20 million a year. Like, he just wouldn't have gotten that extension on the open market. So it was in his agent and himself is their best interest to do that extension then. That's just my opinion, because I don't think he would have got that in the open market, especially after the year he just had. If he was going into if Herb was expiring and going into the free agency, you couldn't get a first for Herb. I'm not sure you can get a good first for him now, but you couldn't get it. Like I used to always reference this when I used to be talking to Mr. Egg. Go look at what the Nets did with Royce O'Neal and how that played out with Royce O'Neal and Dorian Finney-Smith. The longer you keep those role players and it's getting time to start paying them big money, their value decreases. Like Dorian Finney-Smith on Houston right now, they can't give that motherfucker away with that contract he got. Justin Davis say if he was a distressed asset, there would be no chance he comes to. Yeah, I mean, if he was a free agent, he definitely won't go. V-Man said, give me Giannis and okay. That ain't how the salary cap work, V-Man. That ain't how it work, bro. I get what you're saying, though. Y'all saying play it again? All right, look, I'm about to play it again right now for y'all. My bad. I just saw that.
Oh, we're gonna keep you updated and monitoring that situation.
Started from the beginning.
Although teams have been calling New Orleans about Trey Murphy for a long, long time now. One of the teams that's been the most interested in Trey Murphy over the last couple of years, according to my sources with knowledge of the situation, has been the San Antonio Spurs. So right now we can kind of check them off, being that clearly San Antonio has a build that has been humming in the right direction all the way to this NBA Finals that tips off tomorrow night in San Antonio. Matthew 365 is asking, or he's saying, I hear the comments about the Rockets, but they need to be in on Jaylen Brown if he's
I agree, Cap.
Clear ceiling with Şengün. So let's take that to our third topic of the day, with Boston potentially exploring Jaylen Brown trades. Now, Jaylen Brown has come out and said on his stream, wherever he said that he wants to be in Boston for the next 10 years. Brad Stevens has said that they've been in touch with Jaylen and everything's hunky-dory there. But I'll tell you, he is someone that clearly proved as an MVP candidate last year he could be an alpha in his own right. He already won Finals MVP 2 years ago while sharing the floor with Jason Tatum and leading Boston to the 2 seed, although they fell in the first round to Philadelphia. There's plenty of belief around the league that Jaylen Brown could be an alpha dog on his own squad. And so we do have Houston, Portland, Atlanta as teams that we're monitoring for potential Jaylen Brown suitors. Of course, the Rockets
this is kind of like that.
Have Ime Udoka, their head coach, who coached Jaylen in Boston and took them to the finals in 2022. The Trailblazers have had interest in Jaylen Brown dating back to Damian Lillard's first tenure.
Yo, while we playing it, hit that like button for me, fam. If you just joined it, take a second, hit the like button, man. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. I'm going to get to some of the star questions, then we're going to get out of here, but I appreciate y'all, man. Hit that like button.
With Portland. And by all accounts, whether it's Giannis, whether it's trying to go for Anthony Davis in Washington, the Blazers under new owner Tom Dundon do want to make aggressive trade moves this summer and try to get better by using Jeremy Grant's $35-ish million salary. They've got Milwaukee's trade assets. If there is a Giannis trade, regardless of if he goes to Portland or not, the Blazers have an opportunity to try to send some picks to Milwaukee and figure out a way to get better.
Can y'all hear?
Team capacity.
Let me know if y'all can hear. Can y'all hear, Jake? Let me know.
Atlanta's Jaylen Brown's hometown. I think that's a spot that he would potentially have interest in going to. The Hawks do not want to be in the Giannis trade sweepstakes by various accounts, they clearly look at Jalen Johnson as their kind of front court ball handler, downhill force. But would Jaylen Brown be someone that they'd be willing to send out a younger piece and a draft pick or two to go acquire? That'd be an interesting one to me. And I do believe that the Hawks have been on his radar in the past. The Pelicans have been mentioned by various league executives as a team with Jaylen Brown interest as well. So
hey, that's certainly something. That's certainly something. I'm glad that they're not playing no games. They're not, resting on their laurels. They out there being aggressive. I'm gonna answer some of these questions, man. I'm sorry about my voice, y'all. I'm sick as a fucking dog right now, but I had to show up for the people. So I'm gonna answer some of these questions, then we're gonna get out of here, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button. I appreciate all y'all. Say them even discussing Brown means it's a real option. Well, you know what's funny? Here's what's funny to me, right? And I'm gonna go back and listen to it again. I might reach out to Jake. I haven't talked to him in years, because when I was doing the Bleach Report shit, but I might reach out to Jake. Are teams just saying I'm interested, or are teams like, hey, hey, how you doing? I'm interested. Are they talking amongst each other saying they're interested, or are they actually, is Boston picking up the phone? That's what I'm interested in knowing. I'm sure Boston is picking up the phone, but not only because Boston always pick up the phone for Jaylen Brown, but also they listed those teams specifically. So by them listing Portland, Atlanta, New Orleans, I think it was one other team. By them listing those teams specifically, let me put it back up so I can see what team.
Again, we don't know.
Yeah, Houston. I always thought Houston made a ton of sense for Jaylen Brown. I don't know if it does now. I think Kevin Durant going to Boston with Tatum and Brown makes more sense than Jaylen going to Houston to be with Kevin Durant. I just don't think that makes sense, because I don't think Sengun makes a ton of sense with Boston, because they would have to be like Sengun or Amin Thompson or somebody. I don't think Amin Thompson makes a ton of sense. Now, Amin Thompson is somebody who could get to that rim, like Brad Stevens mentioned. He a monster, but he can't shoot at all. So you would have to change your entire team philosophy to kind of acquiesce and maximize what Amin Thompson. Well, if you wanted Amin to fit in, but if you want to maximize him, I guess you could just keep letting him get to the rim and be the great up and coming young great player that he is. But I'm gonna answer a couple of these questions. I'm gonna dip out of here, man. Appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all hit that like button and subscribe. Hit that bell notification also. Call say Chaz, would you do Isaiah Stewart in the SAR for Trey and Eve? And would you do the DeJounte for Jalen Green? Yes, I would absolutely trade DeJounte for Jalen Green. As far as Isaiah Stewart and the SAR for Trey, in a vacuum, I think I would do it. In a vacuum, I would do it. I'm not thrilled about like having to give Asar that extension, because as it currently stands, Asar doesn't have any offense. Like, he can get to the rim here and there, but he don't really have any offense whatsoever. So that would be, I'm strictly trading for an insane amount of defensive impact, and I would have to go find my offense elsewhere. Also, there's no spacing there because Isaiah Stewart can't score. He's an incredible rim defender, but he can't score. Asar can't really score. So it would be tough. It would be tough. Mosley, well, whatever your cap say, Mosley probably going to want to get. Mosley going to get what he want if Gal give him the keys. I think a big trade going down. I hope so. Yeah, it would be like having, because to me, Asar is way better than her, but it's still like, you gotta be able to score, bro. Like you gotta be able to score. Like it's tough. Also, like, shout out to Shab Entertainment. He said, so I'm guessing Trey not untouchable no more. I don't think none of them dudes is untouchable. I don't think there's not a single untouchable on the roster. If a motherfucker call and be like, hey, that thing you got over there that's worth $75, I give you $200 for it right now. They were like, cool. My dog, what's happening with your homie? Shout out to the bro, my dog in the building. Yeah, like nothing untouchable in my opinion. I just don't think the offense has been great, truthfully. Louisiana, excuse me, y'all. That's what I call it. Louisiana gal, my home, and she said it's basically teams reach out and say, if you ever thinking about doing this, give us a call, and they give like a mock trade offer. Yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that could be something along. It could be something along those lines. You know what I'm saying? It could be some legs to it. You never know, because Jaylen Brown is, shout out to Colin Gillespie. This ain't Colin Gillespie. Like, this Jaylen Brown. So they gonna think long and hard before they try to trade a motherfucker like that. Also, when you think about a team like OKC, they got to do a ton of things to even get to a point like cap-wise where they could trade for a Jaylen Brown. But to me, a Jaylen Brown trade would be like the surprise trade that shocked the NBA to me, a player like that, in my opinion. Like, because to me, we're exiting the superstars era. Like, to me, ain't a ton of superstars left. We're now entering the team depth era, like teams with really deep rosters competing at high levels. I think we're entering that phase. So I think when people talk about even trading for stars, it's like, trading for who? Ain't that many stars around to trade for. Like, Ja, I guess you say he's a star. Jaylen, Giannis, Donovan Mitchell, Kawhi. It ain't like, a ton of motherfuckers that's really available who like bona fide stars to help you win. So I don't know if I see that out there, really. Looney said, I agree, we won 26 games. They all of it. Oh, yeah, I think they would like to keep some of these guys, but I think everybody available. Honestly, to me, if I had to say someone was untouchable, it would probably be Queen. I mean, not Queen. It'd probably be Fears. That's probably the only person I would say that they was like, under no circumstances we traded him. And I don't think they mean under no circumstances. I think if someone said, we'll trade you to Reese Maxey today for Jeremiah Fears, they'd be like, bet, let's do it. Like, I don't believe that they view all these people as untouchable. But, man, shout out to everybody in the building, man. Make sure y'all hit the like button. I'm about to dip. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification as well, man. If anything else come out, I'll be posting soon. I'm sick right now, but I'm working through it. I'm trying to do a little digging, see what I can figure out. See who else talking. See, you know what I'm saying? See what's going on. See what I can bring to the people. If I hear anything else, I'll be sure to come in and talk to y'all. But that's today's show, man. I'm out. Peace.